hands down, back a little straighter. At the professor's direction, I offered my body to his gaze. This was the first time I had ever bared myself for art, submitting to a man's scrutiny. His eyes were like bottomless pits, pulling me in, devouring me. You're a masterpiece. The art studio filled with his praise, and the scratchy sound of his pencil on paper. Every stroke felt like it was being drawn directly on my heart. An unbearable, delicious itch. My name is Lorelei Monroe. I'm a freshman at the prestigious Northwood Academy of Fine Arts. During freshman orientation, my tall frame and innocent face had already earned me the title of campus queen. Everyone saw me as some untouchable goddess. No one knew that beneath my icy exterior lay a smoldering fire waiting to be ignited. The number of guys chasing me was absurd, but I never gave them a second glance, because the one I wanted was my professor, Julian Croft. He was the youngest professor in the academy, devastatingly handsome and quietly intense. Too bad he was already off the market, snapped up way too young. From what I heard, I'd often overhear the other girls talking about him. He's every girl's dream, but he married such an old, plain woman. He's a total saint. They were all complaining from the sidelines, but I was different. I made a silent vow. He would be mine. I heard plenty of girls have confessed to him, but he just gives them the cold shoulder. A sly smile touched my lips. The harder the challenge, the more excited I became. It was the only way to prove my own allure. The boys on campus were all clumsy amateurs. How could they possibly compare to a man with his depth and maturity? So many times in class I'd watch his focused expression and drift into daydreams, imagining it was just the two of us in the room. He was famous for his realistic figure drawings. Most of his award-winning pieces were of female bodies of all ages. I was certain he was a man who appreciated beauty. Otherwise, his hands could never create such magic, making every woman on his campus radiate a unique charm. To get his attention, I started making a point of not wearing a bra to his class. Today, I decided to be late. I ran to the classroom door, my eyes meeting his just as I stopped. As I gasped for air, my chest heaved, the thin fabric of my top doing little to hide my figure. Beads of sweat traced paths down my collarbones, disappearing into the neckline of my shirt. The thin fabric clung to my skin, hinting at the curves beneath, an invitation I knew he couldn't ignore. I didn't need a mirror to know how seductive I looked right now. I refused to believe he felt nothing. Sure enough, I saw his Adam's apple bob, but he quickly looked down again. You're late, miss. Please find a seat. He gestured towards the back of the room, but I had other plans. I grabbed a spare stool and placed it right next to his lectern. When he glanced down, he got an accidental, perfect view of my deep cleavage. He adjusted his gold-rimmed glasses, clearing his throat to mask his discomfort. What are you doing sitting here? A playful smile spread across my face. My gaze, wet and intense, locked onto his. I pitched my voice to a delicate, pleading tone. Professor, I have trouble hearing from far away. Please. I pressed my palms together, bowing slightly. My breast swayed with the movement, a deliberate, tantalizing display. I looked pitiful, but my intention was aggressive. He didn't say anything more. He just sighed and continued his lecture. For the rest of the class, he deliberately avoided looking at me. I knew he was fighting it, and fighting hard. My gaze was a net, trapping him, drowning him in a silent, shimmering lake of suggestion. I was sure he didn't hate it. He was enjoying it. I knew because the tips of his ears were bright red. After class, I pretended to pack my things, dragging it out until we were the only two left in the classroom. Slowly, I stood up and walked toward him. For a married man, he was as shy as a teenage boy. He still didn't dare to look me in the eye. I tugged my collar down a little lower, then accidentally dropped my box of paints on the floor. The entire set scattered, and a splash of color hit me near my eye. I let out a sharp cry that got a reaction. He pulled a wet wipe from his bag, knelt in front of me, and began to gently clean my face. I leaned forward, lowering my body so that the full curve of my breasts was exposed. His hand trembled. His breathing grew heavy. I knew he couldn't resist me. No matter how proper he acted, he was still just a man. I grabbed his hand, my voice trembling with fake panic. Professor, am I going to go blind? The paint was nowhere near my actual eye, but I loved teasing him like this. I loved watching him lose control piece by piece. No, of course not. Don't worry, it's non-toxic. It will wash right off with water. His voice was a low, magnetic rumble. Watching his throat move as he spoke, I felt an overwhelming urge to get closer. I threw my arms around his waist, my soft breasts pressing firmly against his solid chest. His body flinched, a sharp, involuntary jolt. His wife was probably older, her body likely soft and sagging with age. He probably hadn't felt anything this firm, this elastic, in years. A deep blush spread from his face to the tips of his ears. I peeked at his eyes. He was already lost in a daze, yet he was still desperately trying to restrain himself. He pushed me away hard, but I only clung tighter, pressing myself against him until the hardened peaks of my breast scraped against his chest. I hadn't realized how built he was. He looked lean, but his chest was solid muscle. No wonder he still had a youthful energy in his 30s. He clearly took care of himself. My cat-like seduction made his body grow rigid. His hot breath fanned across my face, sending a tingling heat through me. I widened my eyes, feigning innocence, and licked my lips. Just as I leaned in to kiss him, I heard voices in the hallway. He snapped back to reality, pushing me away and instantly reverting to his proper professional self. Lorelei, your eye is fine. I have to go now. He turned and practically fled the classroom. I was so close I couldn't believe it. Julian Croft, you can run this time, but can you run for the next 4 years? As I fumed, my eyes caught something on the floor, a key. I picked it up and saw the tag. It was for his private studio, the one the university provided for him. He worked there every night. I'd heard his last life drawing model had quit. Her boyfriend couldn't handle it and had a huge fight with Julian about it. He'd been stressing about it ever since. A painter can't live without creating, especially one as obsessed as him. I dangled the key from my finger, a wicked glint in my eye. Well, look at that, an opportunity. He arrived at his studio at 8 o'clock every night, like clockwork. I got there 20 minutes early and left the door slightly ajar. With my back to the entrance, I sat on a long table scattered with rose petals and began to slowly shed my clothes, one piece piece at a time, a slim waist, firm hips, pale, smooth skin. I was confident this sight would be irresistible to any man. I closed my eyes, a thrill of nervous excitement coursing through me as I waited. Finally, I heard footsteps approaching. Tap, tap, tap. The door creaked open. The moment he flipped on the light, he froze, but his shock quickly melted into awe. Lorelei, what are you doing here? I turned, lounging on my side, the very picture of lazy sensuality. A breeze rustled the white linen curtains, making them drift and settle over my body, half hiding, half revealing. It was a perfect, painterly scene. Professor, I know you need a model. I'm willing. I looked at him expectantly, sending him a clear, silent message. If he wanted me, he could have me, for whatever he wanted. But instead, he walked over, picked up a blanket, and covered my body. He spoke through gritted teeth. This isn't appropriate. He'd painted countless women, always composed and professional, but with me, suddenly it wasn't appropriate. That could only mean one thing. He was attracted to me. I ripped the blanket off, exposing myself completely. He immediately spun around, as if trying to draw a physical line between us. I had risked social suicide to get to this point. I wasn't about to give up so easily. I grabbed his head and forced him to face me. He swallowed hard several times but kept his eyes squeezed shut. He so obviously wanted this, yet he insisted on this tortured, reluctant act. I took his large hand and guided it to my breast, closing his fingers around its full, soft weight, a texture this perfect. He probably hadn't felt it in a long, long time. A 20-year-old body is always going to be softer, tighter than a 30-something's. His breathing hitched, ragged and fast, as if he'd been shocked by an electric current. I cooed, my voice dripping with honey. Professor, am I not as good as the other models? He didn't answer, but the look of pure pleasure on his face said everything. I pressed my body against his, feeling the slow, hard change in him. The bulge in his pants was growing, hard as iron. I traced a finger along his neck, playing with his earlobe. Then, catching him off guard, I squeezed my thighs together, clamping them around his leg. Ha! A sharp hiss escaped his lips. He was trying so hard to resist, a vein throbbing in his temple, but he couldn't suppress the guttural sound of pleasure. We were getting there. I stood on my toes, kissing his neck, licking the shell of his ear. Then I moved to his lips. They were cool to the touch. I tried to part them with my tongue, but he kept his jaw clenched shut, a stubborn gatekeeper, such a gentleman. I let out a soft whimper, using the back of his hand to wipe away a fake tear. He finally opened his eyes, seeing my dejected, wounded expression. His gaze softened. Julian, I whispered, my voice breaking, do you hate me that much? This is my first time being this open with a man. I just wanted to help you create your work without any burdens. A flicker of pain crossed his face. He forced out the words, but I have a wife. I can't. I didn't let him finish. I crushed my lips against his.